Representative, thanks so much for joining us on the program tonight. Great talking to you.
It's good to be here.
And, yesterday you had some pretty tough words for Attorney General Eric Holder when he was before the House Judiciary Committee. You asked him at one point, you are the Attorney General, are you not? What was your reaction listening to what the Attorney General had to say yesterday?
Shocked and surprised, I guess. Here you have the chief law enforcement officer of our country. He is sitting there telling us that he didn't find out about an operation that crossed international borders led by his agency until about, approximately 2 months after the death of one of our border agents. And he has taken no action to anyone that was involved. He said he's still waiting a year and a half later. It's just astounding to me that we have the chief law enforcement officer of our country sitting there telling me that he had no knowledge of an international operation.
Yeah, it was pretty astounding. It seems like the excuse from the Attorney General has been incompetence. We go back to these wiretaps that were discussed yesterday, and the Attorney General says, "Well, look, we don't actually read the applications. We read a summary." He couldn't say who prepared the summary. He couldn't say why these top deputies, never saw the information that gun running was taking place that Representative Issa says were in these applications.
Right, and as a lot of us were inquiring as to how do you know you have probable cause if you're just doing summary? How do you know that the information is there? And so that's what we were asking for. We wanted to know let's have the information. And as you know, Chairman Issa has sent a subpoena. He hasn't complied completely with the subpoena. That was one of the major conversations that was held yesterday in committee. I asked the questions because I felt like he wasn't being forthcoming, and it's still surprising to me that he would sit there and say that he was not aware of something that was going on, an undercover operation that was allowing guns to walk across an international border from his agency.
Absolutely. Now, obviously, one of the questions that's still out there is whether or not DOJ and Attorney General Holder will comply with this subpoena. Obviously, the threat of contempt of Congress is out there. Would you support a contempt of Congress charge against the Attorney General if he doesn't turn over these documents?
Of course I would. I'm one of 6 freshmen on our committee who signed a letter to the leadership of our House, and that is asking that he be brought up on contempt charges, because here he is. He hasn't complied completely with the subpoena that Chairman Issa sent him, and we believe that he hasn't been forthcoming. So therefore, myself and 5 other members of Judiciary, freshmen, sent a letter to leadership asking that the contempt proceedings begin, and that is what triggered our letter from our leadership to Attorney General Holder, and I think they gave him a time certain to comply with the subpoenas.
Right, and so it looks like perhaps by early July things will come to a head.
I think that you will see some action. I would hope that you'll see some action by then. As a former police officer, I spent over 17 years in Orange County Sheriff's Office in Orlando, Florida. I've worked many undercover operations, and I can tell you from experience that we would not have allowed thousands of guns to walk. That's just not something you would allow to happen.
Mm-hmm.
So it's astounding to me that they were not only allowing them to walk, they were allowing them to walk over international borders, which inevitably ended up at a murder scene of one of our border agents.
Absolutely. And let me ask you from a law enforcement perspective, because this is something that I think it gets lost sometimes. When they explain how this was supposed to work, they'd let the guns go to the cartels, and eventually somehow, the kingpins of the cartels would be taken down, higher level targets. Clearly, that didn't happen with Fast and Furious. The people that were indicted were, mostly the low level members who were engaging in the straw purchases. What benefit could this operation ever have had? I'm just trying to figure out how anybody could have signed off on this.
That's what we're trying to figure out, is how anybody could sign off on that. I mean, you had the gun dealers, the gun shops saying, hey, we're concerned, ATF, we're afraid that the next time you're going to see these weapons are going to be at crime scenes. And they were right, because this agency were allowing this to happen.
Mm-hmm.
And it's astounding to me that we have an attorney general who will sit there and say, at this point in time, he's still looking into it. Really? Now, I cannot believe that he could sit there and tell us that, when I'm certain, from my own experiences, that if an agency, whether it was a local police agency, a city or a county, or even a state agency, if they came in and were investigating something similar within one of those agencies and there was a death, I'm pretty certain that they would be asking the head of that agency some very strong questions, as we are in Congress asking Eric Holder.
Absolutely.
He is responsible for his agency. And when we asked him if he had read the letter that the leadership had sent, he then told us he delegated that to someone else.
You can't help but get the feeling, and I hate to say it, but you can't help but get the feeling that he doesn't take this seriously. I've watched every appearance that he has made before Congress, and he never is outraged. He's never angry about Fast and Furious itself. He gets angry at the criticism that is directed towards him. That's when he starts to kind of lash out a little bit. But I've really never seen him express a great deal of emotion about this operation that, again, led to the death of Brian Terry and led to the death of perhaps hundreds of individuals in Mexico.
Yes, I mean, when you look at what has happened, there are people that have, I'm sure, died by these weapons on this across the border, and I think that's why the Mexican authorities are very upset. And again, I'm astounded that the head of this agency, the Attorney General, was not aware at all of an international undercover operation. That is just astounding to me. And it concerns me that it doesn't seem to concern him that he was unaware, as he alleges he is or was at the time. So that in itself is concerning. But, yes, the American people and the Terry family deserve to have the answers, and we are going to continue to move forward until we get the answers that we all are seeking. Not that we want a certain answer. We believe that the American people and the Terry family deserve answers as to how this could happen.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, Congresswoman, thank you again for coming on the program. I really appreciate it, and hope we can do this again soon.
Anytime.
Thanks to, again, Representative Sandy Adams joining us from Florida tonight here on Cam and Company.